Okay. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Pathways presentation on when things go wrong at work. So, the title of this presentation is a little dramatic, perhaps, but we wanted to address the fact that things are not always great. I mean, not every day is a good day at any job. I don't think I've never met anybody who says every single day is a great day at their job. So there's things that happen that you need to know how to deal with. So we'll start off talking about a little bit about employment standards, and then we'll get into the actual material of how to handle when things are not going awesome at work. So the Ontario Ministry of Labour has a whole lot of standards in place that cover employer rights and responsibilities and employee rights and responsibilities. So some of those things are things like hours of work, how many hours you're allowed to work in a week, when you have to have a break, which, by the way, is you get a 30-minute, you're required to have a 30-minute unpaid break after 5 hours of work. So there's no such thing as a required 15-minute break or two 15-minute breaks and a half an hour lunch or any of that. Those are things that are kind of done fairly commonly. But the law is 30 minutes after you work 5 hours. If you have a 5-hour shift, you don't have to have a break. If you have a 5.5-hour shift, you have to have a half an hour break. So that's where the line is. It covers things like overtime. So any hours in excess of 44 are normally overtime. Minimum wage, which right now is $14 per adult in most cases, and health and safety awareness training. And those are just a few of the things that the Ministry of Labour covers with their standards. So health and safety awareness in 4 steps. And if you've taken any of our skills courses, you've done this training. It's mandatory training for every worker in Ontario. And it outlines all your rights and obligations for health and safety at work. It talks about your right to refuse work. It talks about how to participate in keeping your workplace safe, some different things that you can do. And it has a whole bunch of contact information in there. So that training, if you haven't done it or if you haven't done it in a while, is available for free online. You just Google health and safety awareness in 4 steps and it'll come up. And you can go through the modules if you want to do that again or if you've never done it before. Usually every new job you get will need to do this training. It takes about an hour, but it is required for all workers in Ontario. And then, just tell me, Becky? You said the next one? Yeah. Absolutely. So your employer is required to make deductions from your wages. So they normally will give you a statement or a pay stub. We typically call them pay stubs, even though that dates back to the days when you used to get a hard copy check from your employer, and then there would be the other half would have the breakdown of what was deducted from your earnings. But we still call it a pay stub, even though they're generally emailed or mailed out now. So there's kinds of things that can be deducted that actually have to be deducted from your wages. Statutory deductions, so that's employment insurance, Canada pension plan, and income tax. Those are pretty standard. Everywhere you work is going to deduct those. Sometimes they don't for students, I noticed. I just noticed this because I happen to have 2 teenagers, and I noticed that they don't often get income tax deducted, so there must be some waiver for students because they know they're not going to expect to make that much money during the year. But as a working adult working full-time, you should be having all 3 of those deducted from every check. If there's any court order in place, so the Family Responsibility Office, or you owe back taxes, or what, there could be a variety of things, but if there's a government ordered deduction, then your employer has to take that off your check as well. And if you've given them written authorization to deduct for other things, so sometimes that could be for an RSP matching program, or just an RSP deduction off your pay, or additional taxes. If you're working 2 part-time jobs, sometimes people want additional taxes deducted so that they don't end up having to pay at tax time. Those are some of the examples. I think Becky's gonna take over here.
Yeah, so we want to talk a little bit about subcontractors, and this is very, very common in the construction industry. So I deal with that off and on with different employers because there are advantages and disadvantages to be able to do this. So first, let me explain what it is. So a subcontractor, you are your own entity. So you are hired on, but not as an employee of the company that you're working for. You're basically a subcontractor that they use to do different projects. As a subcontractor, you are basically responsible for yourself. So you are responsible to make sure that you pay the income tax, that you'll have to calculate the amount that is due based on how much you're receiving. You have to pay for your own WSIB coverage. Typically, this is not something that's covered by an employer if you're hired on as a subcontractor. So this is where I get a little leery, especially in the construction industry, because you are not covered by that employer's insurance. So if you are hurt on the job, if something happens, if there's damages, anything like that, you are responsible for that. I often tell stories of my young adult son who dabbles in this industry, and he thought that it was a great idea to be hired on as a subcontractor because he thought you got to take home more money, which is true because he didn't realize that in that money he had to take his own taxes off. And I tried to explain several times about the risk that he was taking with not being protected by WSIB. And if any of you know stories of my son, he's quite accident prone. So thankfully, he has not had to worry about that, but he's come close several times. So it's something that you really need to weigh out the pros and cons, especially in that industry, because you're doing things that are much more dangerous than other types of work. And if you earn more than $30,000 a year, you have to charge or collect HST in order to collect HST, but you have to submit that yourself. So it's all on you. The onus is not on the employer whatsoever in order for those records to be kept. Again, as a subcontractor, you're not eligible for benefits. If you want health insurance or you want any other kind of prescriptions or eyeglasses or trips to the dentist, that is all on you. That is not something that you can have covered by any employer. Same with if you have a sick day, you don't go to work, you don't get paid. Or you take vacation time, you don't accrue vacation as a subcontractor, you would just take that as unpaid time. You're not covered by any of the Employment Standards Act, so those are the few specifications that Laurie just talked about. Those are you're not covered by because you're not paying into employment insurance. And again, if you are not working, you also cannot collect employment insurance, obviously, because you haven't paid into it. So if you are on a project that ends and you don't have work, it's not something that you can apply for in order to receive money until you can start working again. Same thing with Canada Pension Plan. You're not accumulating money for your retirement. Over the years, as an employee of different companies, you pay into Canada Pension Plan, and that accumulates over your lifetime as a working person so that you can be able to redeem that once you become of age where you retire. But if you are a subcontractor, you have not been paying into that. So that money will not be there when it comes to that period in your life. A lot of people like to talk about working under the table or cash jobs. That's a dicey thing to do for all of the reasons that I just explained. But as well, if you are caught, that's something that you can be fined for various reasons. And the same with if you're on OW and you're trying to be making some money on the side, chances are it's not going to work in your favor. Usually it gets found out. Usually there's some different things that people can pick up on as to what you're doing or how you're doing it. And it usually isn't favorable for you. So it's something that usually comes back and kind of bites you a little bit. And it's not as worth it as it might seem in the time. Even though it's quick, fast money, it's not usually worth it for various reasons.
Mm-hmm.
So you can go to the Ministry of Labor website. There's a website here that's posted on the page, or a 1-800 number. It's so that you can check out different standards that are there, different rules, different boundaries that you're bound by, or things that you're protected by as an employee for an employer. So it's just a good thing to check out if you want more information.
Okay. So guys, when we're starting a new job, we have certain expectations of the employer. Some of the things we may expect to be trained. We want to have enough work to do. We want to be treated fairly. We want to be paid for the job we're doing. We want the correct tools to do the job, and we want a safe work environment. That probably covers all your expectations, but if you have any more, feel free to add them in the chat, and Becky will watch for those. And your employer expects certain things of you as well. They expect you to be on time every day, not to miss any days or miss as few as possible. Consistently do a good job and work hard to learn the job, be willing to learn. We hear from employers so often, just give me somebody who's gonna be here and be willing to learn, and we'll handle the rest. Sorry about my bird in the background, everyone. And to be a professional, just overall, act like you're at work. Don't act like, you're on the golf course or, at the club. Act like you're at work when you're at work. So what happens if the job is not quite how you thought? If things are not as great as you were kind of expecting? And what happens if you are not the dream employee that your employer was expecting? This is where things start to fall apart and jobs start to disappear. So let's talk about expectations here and how they work. So if I'm going to join the gym, I expect I'm going to get fit, I'm going to lose weight, I'm going to feel amazing, and I'm going to look just like this lady in no time at all. So but joining the gym in reality feels a little bit more like this, doesn't it? Very awkward. This guy clearly doesn't know what he's doing. He's in big trouble here with the weight sliding off the bar. Feels a little bit more like that in reality. So some of the realities that you might experience if you join a gym, you might feel awkward. If you're not used to going to the gym, you might be self-conscious. It definitely takes time out of your day that you might not be used to giving up. You're going to have to get different clothes and different shoes if you want to, perform your best and fit in at the gym. You're going to be sore. Nothing changes in the first few weeks anyway. And you probably feel worse in the short term, or at least the same, best case scenario, but you very likely might feel worse. So should you stop going to the gym? Normally when we're in class, everybody chimes up and says, no, you can't stop going, you have to keep going. You have to take more than one day. So just like the gym, it takes a while to get used to working. So we expect, like this guy, we expect a straight line from where we are right now to that great success, whatever that looks like for us. But the reality looks a little bit more like the bottom picture, doesn't it? We go ahead, we slip back, we fall back, we have a little bit of a setback, we get ahead again, we dip around and loop back around to where we were. And eventually we do get to that same spot, but it doesn't go in a straight line, almost never goes in a straight line. So we get so excited about the product, about the success we're gonna have with our new job. We get so excited about, I'm gonna be making money and I'm gonna do this and I'm gonna do that. But we kind of forget that there's a process that you have to go through to get to that end product sometimes. So the process is the work we achieve to get to that product. And the product in this case is the end result of our hard work. So be careful not to limit yourself by quitting a job when you don't immediately see the results that you want, when it's not immediately your dream job, or it's not immediately, everything you were hoping it would be. Sometimes it takes some time to work the process. Sometimes you start a job and they say, I know we hired you for job A, but actually I think we're going to use you for job B instead. And you have a choice there. You can either do job B and make the best of it and take the paycheck home, or you can refuse to do job B and have no job again. So obviously we would encourage you to do your best to do the second thing, whatever they're asking you to do, and work it and get into the company and get to know people and work your way up.
Laurie,
there are a lot of things. Yeah.
I'm just going to interrupt you for a second. Becky's power has gone out, so she's not currently with us. She's going to try and get back in.
Okay, I'll just keep going. Thank you. I was wondering where she went.
Yeah.
So
it's okay. Laurie, it's okay. I've been made the host for some reason.
Okay.
So I've got the recording. Yeah.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Just allow yourself time to get through that process when you're just starting out. There might be some setbacks. There might be some highs and lows. It's all part of the process. It's not all going to be sunshine every day. So the process when you're talking about work is showing up every day, working hard, doing a good job, day after day after day, consistently. And the product is going to be that regular paycheck, a steady source of income. So always knowing you have a steady paycheck coming in and a chance to change your life or your family's life. So what kinds of things would make you quit a job? Can you guys just type into the chat? And Harvey, do you have access to the chat, okay?
Yes, I do. Go ahead, Laurie.
So if anybody has any thoughts on what kinds of things would make them quit a job, just throw it in the chat right now. Some of the things we had in here, not getting along with coworkers or your supervisor, that seems to be a big one. Concerns about changes in your life. So, various things are going to change when you start working, and that can be a big, scary concern for people. Harvey, if there's anything coming in the chat, just
yeah, I'll let you know, Laurie.
Yeah. You might feel uncomfortable in that new environment. It might be just scary and things might be really weird for you.
Laurie, somebody has mentioned abusive coworkers.
Yeah. So there might be some type of abuse going on. And if it's at that level, then if that's the level where you would tell it abuse, that might be a legitimate reason to leave a job. But definitely you would want to try and work it out first. You might feel it's financially not worth it to work. But hopefully if you've been to any of my, if you've ever had a session with me, you've probably heard all about how it is financially worth it to work. Being on OW, unfortunately, is the worst financial situation you can be in other than having no income whatsoever. If you are earning anything at a job, you're still making more money than OW. You might have some naysayers in your life. You might have those kind of people who have a problem for every solution. Everything that goes well in your life, those people have something negative to say about it. And I think we all have one or two of these in our lives. Or your family might be in conflict about you going to work. You may not have the full support of your family. And that's common too. So these are just some of the things that we see. The job may not. Go ahead.
Sorry, don't mean to interrupt. Somebody else has mentioned an unsafe environment that the employer will not change.
Yeah, that could be another reason, for sure. The job may not be exactly what you thought it was going to be. You might run into one of these scenarios where they want you to do something a little different than you were originally hired for. Can you do it? Is it okay? Can you still make money doing it? And not getting enough hours. Not getting enough hours is my biggest pet peeve reason why people leave jobs. Because if you're getting some hours, you may as well stay in that job until you can get a better job that has more hours. I would never recommend quitting a job because you're not getting enough hours unless you have another job to go to that has more hours. And fear of leaving OW, that's a big one. That's a big one we see a lot because especially if OW is paying your rent directly, you're getting money for a bus pass from OW, there can be a lot of things that are difficult to leave because maybe you don't really fully understand how the entitlements work and what's going to happen. If I start working, what's going to happen? I get more phone calls from clients saying, okay, so I started this job, I've been there 2 weeks, so what do I do about OW now? And so we have another whole piece of curriculum on that, but rest assured we know exactly how to manage that transition. So if you are starting a job and you're not sure what to do, just give us a shout. We'll be happy to help you with that. So some of the things that might cause you to be fired from a job is missing time. This is the biggest one we hear over and over again. The person was never here. He was great when he was here, but he was never here. I hear that a lot. And your version of missing a lot of time and an employer's version of missing a lot of time might be very different. Really, an employer considers any time you miss to be a lot of time. So if you called in sick 2 or 3 times in your first 3 months, that probably feels like a lot to the employer, even though it might not feel like a lot to you. You really can't miss any time in your first few months. Having a bad attitude, bringing a bad attitude to work with you, complaining all the time, that type of thing. Having a poor work ethic, just not really wanting to work, just not really wanting to be there. And failing to follow any rules or policies that your employer has. Whatever they are and however crazy they may seem to you, there's a reason why they have that rule or that policy. If you're not sure, a good thing to do is ask, why do we have that policy? What's the thinking behind this policy? That way, at least you're asking a question rather than saying, oh, that's a stupid rule. It's much better to ask if you really are concerned about it. Substance use on the job is an easy way to get fired immediately. No employer is going to tolerate that. So if you are using or have used before you got there, or are drunk or high or whatever the case may be, that's a real short road to the end of your employment.
By the way, Laurie, I'm back.
Hi.
Hi.
You want to take over? You want to start?
Sure. Sorry about that, everyone. All of a sudden, I just had no power. Okay, so when you start a new job, it's going to be a little bit of a shock to your system. Are you going to be tired? Absolutely. Are you going to be sore? Absolutely. Even if you are doing some sort of an administration job, you can be sore just from sitting in a chair all day, sitting in a position that you're not used to, staying still for that long, you can get stiff. Or if you're working in a job where you're expected to do manual labor and you're not used to that, you're going to be pretty sore. It's going to be a little bit of a shock to your system. So it's something that you need to be prepared for. How long will it take to adjust physically? We like to say minimum of 6 weeks, really, before you kind of get into the routine of your body's used to it, because it's going to fight you for a little while because it's not comfortable. It's something that you're going to maybe have to get used to, using new muscles that you haven't used before, doing different things that you haven't done before. It's going to take a while. So you need to give yourself some time, be patient, be kind with yourself, because it's going to take a little while to get into a new routine. Same with how long it will take to adjust mentally. There's a lot of mental preparation and a lot of mental energy that is expelled when you start a new job. Everything from being anxious about meeting new people, to learning new skills, to learning different locations, of new routines at home. Everything is going to change. So that's hard. That's hard to be able to adjust quickly. We talk about here your daily routine. I mean, if you don't live on your own, it will affect every single person in your household, because it upsets kind of what the normal was. It's something where your kids may have to have a different routine, your partner may have to have a different routine. We've talked about this a little bit in previous webinars about basically it will affect the people around you in different ways, but almost as much as you, because it could change the different roles that you have in the house. It could change when dinner time is. It can change what your nighttime routine looks like. You're probably going to want to go to bed a whole lot earlier and have to get up in the morning a whole lot earlier, which is very probably different than what you're used to doing right now. So negative Nelly and bitter Bill. I don't like these people, but I like their names because it's kind of catchy. So negative Nelly and bitter Bill. These are people that you want to stay away from. These are people who do not they do not give off positive energy. They are not someone that want you to succeed. They are not someone that they're pushing you forward into a good place. They're people that are actually trying to hold you back. So it could be that these are employees that you work with that really don't like the new guy coming in. And partially the reason why they don't like that new guy or new girl is because you're probably a little bit more effective than them, because you're on top of your game and you're keen and you want to learn and you're very thankful to have this job. And so you're going to do whatever's asked of you. You probably have a really good attitude, or at least you should. You're probably one to do whatever's asked of you without grumbling and complaining. And all of a sudden, the employees that have been there for quite some time, who have perhaps gotten into a little bit more of a lazy routine, they're kind of doing things as they need to instead of being really efficient, all of a sudden now you're showing the boss that things can be done a little bit more quickly and a little bit more efficiently. So they don't really like that, because that means they have to step up their game as well, which is going to upset kind of the way that they've created their workplace. So you want to stay away from those people. You want to stay away from people who are going to gossip, people who just are not positive people, that are negative people, because you just don't want to go down that rabbit hole. You don't want to engage yourself in gossip or conversation about people at work. You don't want to talk about your boss in a negative way. You want to maintain professionalism, and you want to maintain you're a person of character, so that it's something where that's who you are known for at work. You're known for your good work ethic. You're known for the choices that you make and the job that you do. You want to keep it on that level. You don't want to associate with the other people who don't have that level of professionalism, because the reason why we're working is because we want success. We want to be able to move forward. We want to be able to get off of Ontario Works. We want to be able to set goals for ourselves and do all of those sorts of things to move ourselves forward. So in order to do that, you need to stay away from these people who are just, I call them joy suckers. They just don't want you to have joy or to see you succeed. So stay away from those people. That's what our advice is.
Those are the people who will come and tell you, no one ever gets a raise here. It's horrible working here. You don't want to work here.
Right.
Those people. You can identify them by their cry of, it sucks here. It sucks here.
I had one employee that was working for me. We were a subcontractor in a factory that was actually out in St. Thomas, and he applied for a position with another subcontractor within the same factory. And so I still was able to see him, even though he worked for another company. He came to me and he said, Becky, they're telling me to slow down. And I said, what do you mean? And he said, they're telling me to slow down because I run out of work. And so they have to find different things for me to do. And all the other guys are mad because I'm getting more work done than they are. And he goes, I don't understand. And it was a perfect example of the fact that it was because he was a go-getter. And that was one of the reasons why he was hired by that company, is because they were watching him in the environment working for my company and thought, you know what, he's a really good employee. We'd like him to work for us, which was great for him, but not so great for the people that he was now working with, because he was outshining them, which is what they didn't like. Do you want me to keep going, Laurie?
I can go from here, I think.
Okay, all right.
Up until the last couple. So some of the things that people are sometimes worried about when they start working, one of them is childcare, and that's a legitimate concern. Childcare is a scary prospect when you've got to line everything up just so, but assuming you have childcare, we can help you, talk you through the transition from receiving Ontario Works to switching over to a childcare subsidy. So you can't actually receive a full subsidy for childcare and Ontario Works unless you're in school, unless you're in some type of training program, not school, but if you're in a training program such as Pathways, you can. But otherwise, if you're starting a job, they won't give you full childcare subsidy and Ontario Works. So you switch over to childcare subsidy, which in a lot of cases, a month of childcare is more than an Ontario Works check anyway. And then they fully fund your childcare for you. The eligibility for full subsidy for childcare, I believe, is a cutoff of about $20,000 a year income. So, and it goes by your previous year's income. So once you're approved, you would be approved for that full tax year until the following year. But we can go through all the details of that with you. We do know how that all works. Rent geared to income housing. If you are in subsidized housing and your rent is geared to your income, your rent will change. It doesn't change the very first month you start working, is my understanding. It is a kind of a gradual thing, but that you work that out with your landlord, whoever that is. If your rent's being paid directly, then that's something that you need to figure out, because once you're off Ontario Works, they're obviously not going to be paying your rent. So you need to work that out with your landlord, switch that over. Transportation can be a big one. You should be getting, at the moment, they're not issuing bus passes at the moment, but once things get back on track, if you're needing funds for transportation, make sure that your caseworker is aware of that and it's on your check. Once you stop receiving Ontario Works, then that's something you have to consider in your budget. And those naysayers in your life who want to tell you why you shouldn't bother to work. Why are you working? What are you doing that for? You're barely making any money. Don't listen to them. You be the judge for yourself of what's right for you. And I'm going to tell you, if you want to get ahead in life, it's going to be working. Getting ahead in life, staying on Ontario Works is not really a reality. And working for minimum wage is sometimes a concern for people. You know, I got to buy a bus pass, I got to get this, I got to make my lunch. Believe me, you're still better off working. Even for minimum wage, there's almost no situation where you're not better off working. So when it comes to those bad days that we have, how do we manage a bad day? How do I manage it if, you know, somebody has snapped at me? My supervisor really snapped at me about something. It didn't feel justified, and I really feel like kind of hurt. So first of all, I would want to talk about it. Maybe you talk to the supervisor, maybe you talk to another supervisor, you know, somebody, don't gossip about it, but you want to talk it out. Is it really, what really happened? What was really said? And elevate your thinking. And by elevating your thinking, I mean, consider whether you could be wrong about how you're feeling. Could it be that there's something else going on here? Is it possible my supervisor was just in a bad mood about something else that's going on and it has nothing to do with me? Is it possible there was another motivation? Get creative. Again, same thing. Be creative about how you think about it. Is it possible that this just wasn't as bad as I think? Is that possible? And sometimes, almost always, that is possible. Learn from your mistakes. If you have actually made a mistake, own it. Own it. It's your mistake. You know, apologize, move on. Try not to make that mistake again. People will respect you much, much more for owning your mistakes than trying to deny that you made a mistake. And don't take things personally. Somebody snaps at you, it's probably got nothing to do with you, honestly. It's probably very much about whatever's going on in their sphere and nothing to do with you. But most importantly, shake that situation off and leave it at work. Don't drag it home with you. You're going to be dragging it back in the next morning, and it's going to have grown, and you're going to have made it into a bigger deal than it is. And really try to just evaluate what happened. So what actually happened? Did I actually do something wrong? Was it just an offhand comment that I'm taking too seriously, or was it really serious enough that I need to go talk to the person about it? So if you need some help navigating something like that happens, you can always call Pathways. No matter if it's been 2 years, 3 years, whatever, since you've worked with us, we're always here for you. We will always have a chat with you and talk something through. You could go to your supervisor, depending on the, you know, whether you want to go to the actual person or not. Maybe the situation didn't have anything to do with the supervisor, and then that's a good person to talk to. Various positive people in your life, whoever that may be. If you have a mentor at work, maybe you have a trainer, maybe you had somebody who, you know, was showing you the ropes at the beginning, you could kind of bounce the situation off of. Your OW caseworker can be another good resource if they're fairly easy to get a hold of. But whatever you do, please don't ask those naysayers for help. Don't go to a problem maker with a problem, because guess what they're going to do? They're going to make it an even bigger problem. And then they're just going to say, oh, I told you what working wasn't good for you. What are you doing? Why are you wasting your time? And you don't need to hear that. So don't leave work in a huff if something like that happens. That doesn't help anything. Don't quit the job. Just give it a little bit of time. Don't badmouth your employer on social media or in person. Don't go home and mouth off on Facebook about what a bad day you had at work, because that's going to get back to the supervisor and make everything worse. And don't look for help from those naysayers once again. They're not the people you want to talk to when you've had a bad day. Don't abuse substances as an escape. It can be real tempting after a bad day to go home and have a few drinks and kick back. But guess what? If a few is going to turn into more than a few, the morning is still coming, and it's coming even earlier. So it's still coming. and you've got to go to work then not feeling the greatest. So I don't recommend that as an escape from your bad day. Becky, do you want to just finish up from here maybe?
Sure. So everybody's going to have a bad day. Even if that's not the way it starts, sometimes that's the way it ends. You need to be able to get yourself out of that because bad days are going to happen. So find your thing that kind of lets you kind of escape from just that negative place and takes you to a more positive place. So examples like exercising, going out for a walk, just a change of scenery, walk around the block, go for a run, get on your bike, that sort of thing. It doesn't have to cost any money. Some of you have hobbies that is a good way for you to kind of unwind, whether it's, you know, gaming, there's video games, drawing, listening to music, any kind of activity. Some people really like to relax. They kind of like to be in that quiet space, and other people like to do something that's energizing and kind of gets their blood pumping and gets the endorphins running, and it makes them feel a whole lot better and a whole lot more positive. Surrounding yourself with family and friends, whether it's, you know, your neighbors, your kids, your spouse, just friends that you have, even if it's just a phone call or even a Zoom call, that's kind of a reality in today's day and age. But surround yourself with positive people, and don't do that as a way to, well, now I'm going to tell you all about my bad day. Leave your work at work. It's not something that you want to have fester. It's not something that you want to take to bed with you, because how often have we done that? And then you get a horrible night's sleep because your brain won't shut off. And then you don't have many hours to sleep because you haven't been able to go to sleep. And it's just this vicious cycle that you don't want to get involved in. So find whatever outlet it is in order for you to kind of leave that negativity behind. Yeah, so do whatever it is that makes you feel happy. So you know what that is for you. A lot of people have found different hobbies in this kind of time period of COVID that of interest that they didn't even know that they had. So try some new things if you can't figure out what your thing might be, because there's lots of different options out there. Work-life balance. This is a kind of a funny term, because sometimes you don't really find that balance. Sometimes you just find a new way to make your life work, because you're not going to have as much free time. You're not going to have the ability to kind of have your life the way that it was when you weren't working. So you need to find that new balance, but you need to make sure that you make that a priority. And one of the things that I would suggest is just to be kind to yourself and to be easy on yourself, because if it takes you a while to get used to this new job and the new routine and maybe the physical expectations that there are of this new job, that's okay. It's okay to be tired. It's okay to kind of tell your family and your friends, you know what, I'm exhausted. I just can't. I'm just getting used to this new routine. That's okay. It's okay if you come home and you don't have some 3-course meal prepared for your family. It's okay. You need to cut yourself some slack, because it is something that's going to take a while to get used to. It could take a few months, depending on how much of a change your lifestyle has taken on. It's all right. I remember when I was working midnights and I was a single mom, we used to have what we called movie night, which really meant the kids watched TV while mom caught like 10 minutes of sleep on the couch because I had to go in and work that night. Or, you know, it was, we had a picnic on the living room floor with the TV on because I was so exhausted that I couldn't imagine making more than that for dinner. And that's okay. My kids actually have those as really fun memories when they were little. They loved having picnic nights and they loved having campouts, when really it was just like, oh my goodness, I just need to sit on the couch because I'm exhausted. That's okay. It's all right for you to give yourself that permission to not be the perfect parent or the perfect spouse, because you're just trying to figure it out. This is all new. So you need to be a little bit kinder to yourself and just know that this is part of the process, because you're adapting to a whole bunch of new changes. So remember that you came to Pathways because you have a goal. You have a goal of becoming more independent as far as having a job, having a career, more direction in your life. You have goals that you want to achieve. You know, some of that might come through taking our skills program. Some of that might be just getting some assistance to find a job because you've already got experience that you want to add to that's on your resume. All of those things, they're all positive things. And sometimes when you have a bad day or when trying to find a job is a frustrating process, because we all know that it is, you need to remember that. Don't lose sight of that, because you can move forward. You can actually achieve your goals. You can reach your dreams. All of those things are possible. You just have to keep going. So whether that's the process of trying to find a job, whether that's the process of staying in the job, whether that's the process of finding the new routine, while everything is changing in your life, just keep moving forward, because as this says, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. So you need to put yourself out there. You need to realize that you have the support system, especially here at Pathways. But if you're surrounding yourself with the people that we suggest that are positive, that want the best for you, that are willing to kind of go on this journey with you, it's just going to set you forward, and it's just going to be a positive thing for you, that once you get over the bumps and lumps of the beginning, because it's always a bit rocky, it's smooth sailing from there, as far as take one day at a time. And all of the things that we've kind of added in as tips and tricks of how to get through that stage, that's what's going to set you up for success.
Great. Okay, do we have any questions or comments coming in?
Well, I lost the chat when I went AWOL for a minute, but I don't think there was anything there. There was one participant that said, when we were talking about, don't gossip at work, they said, loose lips sink ships.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So yeah, but no, there was nothing else that was kind of in the comments as far as people wanting different input, but.
I see that, yeah. Okay. If anyone else has anything, just throw it in the chat now. I like this presentation because we don't want to always talk about the fact that it's not always great at work. Our job is to get people working and help people find jobs and all that. And, everything's great. You're going to get this job and everything's going to be wonderful. And sometimes there's a few bumps in the road, as Bob used to say, before you get to that place where things are a little smoother at work. And you have to be willing to go over those bumps and know that it's totally normal and expected to have some bumps.
Yeah, I think that it's really easy to become overwhelmed, and it's really easy to be really hard on yourself that you aren't doing it with more ease, or having things organized and you feel like you're just kind of running like a chicken with its head cut off. That's kind of normal. I can tell you right now, from being at home for 3 months with this COVID thing and going back into the office and having to kind of relearn that routine that I had done for so long, even that is overwhelming. Making sure that I now have the routine of taking my dog out in the morning and making sure that I have dinners planned and making sure that I have my lunch made and making sure that I have everything organized if I want to do something after work, or, have I touched base with my kids, or do I have a commitment? I mean, and I'm a single person. I don't have to worry about anybody but just me. But I remember what it was like when I had to do all of that, and I had kids in daycare and they had school and they had sports teams, and there's always moving parts to it. So just be kind to yourself and expect that it's going to be a little tricky, but that's why we're here. It's not something that's going to be easy. It's bumpy. And so that's why we do these presentations, to kind of just give you a reality check that you're normal, and that it's one of those things, it's a process that we want to help you through.
Mm-hmm. There's a comment that came in. We heard a similar comment last week. Make yourself an emergency meal and store it in the freezer. So on your days off, set aside an extra portion of a meal and throw it in the freezer, and then it's ready for you if you should need it one day. If there's a day where you get up late or just don't have it in you to make your lunch for that day, you can just grab that one out of the freezer. That's a great plan.
Yeah, because I talked about before how when I'm not prepared, sometimes I'll bring a can of soup and a green pepper, and that much because I'm not always organized, and it's, again, just me, and I'm still not organized sometimes. So those tips help me as well.
Luckily, we have the kitchen with some utensils and stuff at Pathways, because we've all been known to show up with a lunch that kind of looks like that. Well, it doesn't look like anything else is coming in the chat. So thanks everybody for being here today. And as with all of these presentations, you'll be able to find this on our YouTube channel within a couple of days if you want to have a look at it again. And we encourage you to follow us on Facebook and Instagram if you're a Facebook and Instagram person, because these boosters, the info will be on there each week for what's happening. Next week, what presentation is next week? Tough interview questions, I believe.
I think so. I don't have it right in front of me, but I believe that's the one.
Yeah, I believe it's Harvey and Sandy doing tough interview questions next week, which is a great one, and we don't do that one very often. So I'm excited for that next week and hope to see all of you there next week. Thanks, everyone.
Bye, everyone.